When you're a writer, sometimes your work can feel like it's going nowhere. You write, and you edit, and you rewrite, but nothing clicks. Well, believe me, you are not alone. There is a reason so many famous authors have writer's block. Sometimes you just need inspiration. And there's no better place for that than a spooky, abandoned radio station that may or may not be haunted by the ghost of a murdered DJ. Yep, this happened to me, and I am gone. Tell you how this story came to life today on Creepypasta. Before we jump into things, I want to give a huge shout out to our sponsor for today's video, NordVPN. One of my favorite parts about making these videos is researching the creepypastas. Like, I get to learn so much about the world and about history and about culture. The only problem is that with some topics I research, well, let's just say it makes me realize just how unsafe the internet really is. When I was researching today's story, one of the things that really kept me up at night was learning about malware. This is software that can infect your device and steal sensitive information like passwords, credit card info, or even your identity. Malware can be tricky to avoid too, because it can lurk in places you wouldn't expect, like malicious attachments in emails or infected ads online. Once it's on your device though, it can do all sorts of damage, like steal your identity or your money, or spy on what you read doing. That's why having a VPN like NordVPN is so important. Not only does it encrypt your data so nobody can see what you're up to, but it also hides your IP address so nobody can find out where you are or who you are. And now back to the story. Do you ever wake up in the middle of the night and swear the TV turned itself on? Or maybe you were watching a show and suddenly a strange noise played from the speakers. Well, if you have, you might know how I felt when I first heard this story. Because this pasta was originally posted to No Sleep Reddit by a user named Mindless Muse. It details the strange happenings surrounding the last broadcast of DJ Mike Riley on WZKR 98.7 FM, which are happenings that continue to this day. Let's jump right in. The town of Blackwater still whispers about WZKR 98.7 FM, the station that played the Dead's favorite songs. On October 17, 1983, DJ Mike Riley signed off with his usual catchphrase, "Keep listening, I'll be right back." But when police broke into the studio the next morning, they found his frozen body slumped over the controls rigor mortis had set in hours before his final words aired. The case was closed as a heart attack, but urban explorers started reporting weird stuff. The studio lights flicker at 3:07 a.m., the exact time Mike died. Old radios tune to 98.7 FM on their own, and the worst of all, listeners claim to hear a new voice in the static. "You're next." So obviously, I was pretty scared when I first read this, but then I got a little bit more intrigued. Is this real? Did this actually happen? Well, to find out, I decided to try something myself. I bought an old radio from an antique store, took it home, and waited until 3:07 a.m. Yes, I stayed up all night for this. I mean, I figured if anything was going to happen, it would happen then, but nothing did, so I went to bed. In the morning, I woke up to the sound of scratching from inside the radio. Okay, big deal, right? But then I noticed that the antenna was spinning around on its own. Then at 3:07 a.m., the lights started flickering. Of course, I nearly jumped out of my skin when that happened, so I recorded it on my phone. And then a voice came over the static, saying, "You're next." Okay. Maybe it's a hoax, right? Maybe it's someone trying to mess with me. But then I received a series of phone calls from unknown numbers. They never said a word, just hung up when I answered. But then I started getting threatening messages, too. At first, they were just notes, written in lipstick on the bathroom mirror at school. But then they became phone calls, hundreds of them every day. They still don't say anything, just breathing on the other end. Of course, I thought this was the craziest thing ever. I mean, was I going insane? Was this some sort of sick joke? But then I remembered the date. It was February 2004, exactly 20 years since the death of Mike Riley. Yeah, I was freaked out at this point, so I decided to stop playing around and see if I could find out more about what happened to Mike. After days of searching through old newspaper clippings and transcripts of police interviews, I discovered that Mike's death wasn't exactly a mystery. The police knew who killed him. They just didn't have enough evidence to prove it. After hearing this, I was determined to find the killer. I wanted to put Mike's soul to rest. As I dug deeper, I learned about a man named George Masters, who was Mike's biggest rival and the owner of the local newspaper. Over the years, the competition had turned into a bitter feud, but everyone assumed that George was innocent because he had an airtight alibi. He was at a charity event 20 miles away when Mike died. But what if he had a secret accomplice? Someone to drive him back in time to finish the job. I spent weeks tracking down people who knew George, trying to find someone who could have helped him. Finally, I found Jimmy Dale, a known criminal associate of George's, who admitted to driving the getaway car the night of the murder. Apparently, George promised him $1 million if he helped him make it look like Mike died of a heart attack, but apparently that didn't happen. Jimmy Dale confessed that after Mike was dead, George came back to the car and told him to drive them both to an ATM, where they withdrew $300,000 in cash. They split the money between themselves, and Jimmy Dale swore to keep quiet forever. But then one day in 2003, nearly 20 years later, George approached Jimmy Dale and offered him a way out. If he admitted to the crime, Jimmy Dale would go free. So in February 2004, Jimmy Dale confessed everything to the police. George was arrested and charged with murder. But what does that mean for me? Well, as it turns out, quite a lot. See, when George was arrested, Jimmy Dale disappeared. He fled town and changed his name. Now calling himself James Reynolds, he moved to Portland, Oregon, got married, had kids. He tried to make an honest living installing car alarms, but every night he heard the voice on the radio telling him he'd never escape what he did. And every morning he woke up to the sound of scratching and the smell of burning flesh. Yeah, that's right. It turns out Jimmy Dale isn't the only one with a guilty conscience. Now, if you think this story is over, well, you'd be wrong. Because in 2021, journalist Sarah Bennett decided to investigate. She packed up her things and headed to the abandoned radio tower, where she used a digital recorder to capture sounds. And when she listened back, she heard something chilling. I should probably warn you, it's a little disturbing. Here it is. Sound effect, distorted whispering. If you listen closely, you can hear what sounds like a man saying, "Sarah, turn around." And when played backwards, the audio reveals a bone-chilling truth. Mike wasn't alone in the studio that night. Well, seeing as that's technically impossible, I'm guessing the ghost of one of the killers is haunting the station, warning the living of what they did. Thank you so much for watching today's story. I hope you enjoyed it. As always, if you liked it, please leave me a like and a comment down below. Let me know what you think happened to Mike that night. Also, if you haven't yet, make sure to subscribe, because every Friday I post a brand new spooky story here. Until then, stay safe and I'll see you soon. Bye.